I don't think I've told you the story of my cancer of the larynx. I think it's interesting because I see it from the point of view of a patient as well as a doctor. It all started in the fall of 1981. I had my usual period of hoarseness, but it lasted a little longer than usual. And I thought I ought to have someone look into it. So Mom and I went to see Roy Sessions, a very good head and neck surgeon, also a friend of mine. We had spent time in a class for photography with Paul Giddings Jr. He looked down at my larynx, said, "Dan, you've got the laryngitis." And he turned to wash his hands. And I said, "But Roy, this has been going on for 6 weeks." He stopped washing his hands in midair. He realized he had been a little hasty, but he didn't change his mind as to the course of action. He said, "I'll give you an antihistamine and I'll see you in 1 month." Nothing changed, and the next time I saw him, he looked down and he said, "It's the same. I think I've got to biopsy it." So the next morning we went to the Methodist Hospital. I took along a very fancy brocaded dressing gown, which I didn't much care for, but Mom insisted that I look very jazzy. I woke up from the biopsy Roy said to me, "It looks bad." So when the report came back that it was carcinoma, he reassured me, "I'm going to send you for radiation therapy. You have a 95% chance of cure." So I proceeded to go to radiology 5 mornings a week. I think I did it for 4 weeks or 6 weeks, I don't remember. For the first couple of weeks, I went to the Methodist Hospital oncology section. It was interesting the way it was carried out. I would lie on the table on my face with my head turned to the side, and the technician would bring the cone for the therapy down next to my throat. She would then race out of the room and slam the door as though something terrible was going to happen and she didn't want to be present. The radiation lasted perhaps 10 to 20 seconds. Nothing happened. I got up and went to work. That lasted 2 weeks when the radiation group said they decided to move out to a hospital on Westheimer. So for the remainder of the therapy, I went out early in the morning, went through the same procedure 5 days a week, and then back to work. I had no ill effects. I did well and almost forgot about my problem. But 2 years later, my hoarseness came back. I went to see Roy. He looked in. I think don't remember exactly, I think he did a biopsy again. He said, yes, it's back. He said, but we have a problem. I want to operate on you, but if I operate on you, I'm going to leave Houston to be the head and neck surgeon at Memorial Hospital in New York. And I'm not going to leave you for postoperative care in anybody else's hands. So you think it over. You can be operated on by somebody here in Houston, or you can come to New York when I'm settled and I'll take care of you. So I was left with a dilemma. I didn't want to leave Houston. My family was here, and I trusted everybody at the Methodist Hospital, but I really had great faith in Roy and wanted to follow him to New York. I didn't know what to do, so I called Montague Lane, who was the chairman of the section of oncology. I said, Monty, I have a problem, and I told him what it was. He said, there's no question. You follow Roy. He's one of the few doctors who can operate on your larynx and leave you with a voice. I was so excited. I was so thankful for that piece of advice. We had to wait till Roy got to New York and settled. It was during that time that I called the family together. I think the Fuzz and Sam and children were in Cancun. We picked them up at the airport, assured them everything was all right. But when we got home, we said, we have something to tell you. I told them that I was going to New York to be operated on. And I said, I'd like for them to be with me. And I began to cry. I guess it was the first time I realized the stress I was under. They'd have said, of course. I said, I'll pay your way. I think I did pay their way, or maybe not, but it doesn't matter. I called Steve, told him I wanted him to be with me. He said he would be there. Robbie was a resident at the VA hospital in Houston. He had to make arrangements. They told him they couldn't give him a time off, but he told them I'm going anyway. So they found a way to arrange his schedule. I also called Sister Evie. Mom and I went to New York a week early, just a way of relaxing, take in the sights of the big city. We saw Amadeus on stage. We went to a couple of museums. We went to Cooper Hewitt Museum. We got to the top floor and I was bored. But Mom said she would follow the floors down and see each one. I said, well, I'll meet you in the lobby downstairs. So I went downstairs to wait for her, but the lobby was so dark that I couldn't see the paper. So I went outside the door to the museum, sat on a bench to read the paper. A few moments later, Mom came down, and when she came to the lobby and didn't see me, she began to scream. I was so taken aback and so angry at her reaction that I walked away, and she had to run after me. I was still angry. We went back to the hotel. It took me a while to cool off, but everything quieted down. We also went to see Doug Hennings, a magician. It was a matinee. The theater wasn't very crowded, and a woman and two little girls came to sit next to her to watch the performance. The little girl next to me stood up, and she still couldn't see well. So I picked her up and put her on my lap. The woman, obviously her mother, thanked me. When the performance was over, and it was really enjoyable and very relaxing, we told the woman we were from Houston. She told us her name. I can't remember, but she said, "My husband is the manager of the Houston Astros. Small world." We spent a night or two with family, looking around to see things. I don't remember what else we saw in New York. When the family came up, we had to find a place for them, and we told Roy Sessions' secretary, "Do you know of a good place where my family can stay?" She grumbled and said that it wasn't her job to find a place for family to stay, but she did find us a place that turned out to be dirty, dark, and filled with rats. Rats that ran across the room, ran across the furniture as we sat and talked. The morning of surgery, everybody went with me, met Roy, and I kissed everybody goodbye. When I woke up, I found myself in a dilemma. Somebody was pounding on the bottom of my bed, the frame. I found out later that the my nurse's notes, the chart, were attached to the bed, so they would lift up the chart so they could write on it and then drop it down to bang against the bed. I couldn't complain because I had a tracheostomy tube in and I couldn't talk. And my hands were tied. I couldn't wave to anybody. So I dozed off. That continued. I was able to see a clock, and it was 12 o'clock, and I thought, wow, it's the next day. 12 o'clock, I ought to be out of here to intensive care or my room very soon. I was wrong. It was midnight. I had the rest of the night and early morning up till noon to remain in recovery. When the time came to leave recovery, the head nurse walked up to the bed with her arms folded across her chest, looked at me and said, "You haven't emptied your bladder, have you?" I said, "No." She said, "Well, you're not leaving here to go to your room until you empty your bladder." I thought, wow, I'm here. Nurses running back and forth. The head nurse standing over me. Lots of commotion. How in the world am I going to pee? But I just said nothing. She came back to me. I said, no action. Finally, she said, "I guess I'll have to send you to your room." So I went back up to my room. Yvette was waiting for me, and I was so glad to go to the bathroom and empty my bladder. The boys and Evie came in, happy to see that I was okay. Robbie checked my pulse. Stevie stood at the foot of the bed and later told me he thought I was going to die. Evie was okay. Fuzz brought me a device, a walking man, I guess, or something, so I could listen to tapes. My first day went well. I learned to suck out my trachea, do it myself. I didn't have to ask a nurse. I could do it anytime, day or night. I got along well. I think it must have been about the fourth day. On one of Roy's visits, he said, "You're doing so well, I think we can feed you." And he gave me an illustration about taking a breath, swallowing the liquid that he would give me, and then take another deep breath. All went well. I've been in the hospital, I think, about the 10th day when they told me, "We're going to send you home. And you can go outside into the neighborhood." That was the best part, to get out of the hospital. I walked around, found a hamburger place, found a bench to sit, relax, and enjoy the hamburger, and enjoy being outside. I went home with Yvette. I took another couple of months off, relaxed, did a lot of reading, and then went back to practice. I asked one of the local otolaryngologists to look in my larynx. All went well, except I think it must have been 3 months later that Joe Weber looked in and said there's something wrong. It was winter time, but I called Roy, went up to see him. Yvette went with me. He apologized that he could only find me a semi-private room, but I was okay with that. Yvette woke up at her hotel and rushed outside, but found about 6 inches of snow on the ground. She approached the taxi driver. He said, as he was wiping snow off his windshield, he said no, he couldn't take me, but she convinced him to. She walked into my room just as they were taking me to surgery. The next day I left, went back to Houston, got a call. Roy said, your larynx is okay. That was just some scar tissue. This didn't look good. So it all worked out. This has been over 25 years. And I'm very grateful for having been taken care of, done well.